Good afternoon. Today on the PIO podcast, we have the division manager APIO from Houston Police Department, Allison Hudson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Allison, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Houston PD has been somebody I've been wanting to get on for quite a while. So let's really start with your background because you weren't in a law enforcement background before. So how did you get to HPD from a non-law enforcement background?
When I graduated college, I went to work for a newspaper. So that was in the year of 2008. So obviously it was on the decline at that point. So I worked there for a few years, and then in 2012, I actually went to work for Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office in Ascension Parish, Louisiana. I was the first public information officer that they had ever had in the existence of the sheriff's office. So I kind of started there, and then 10 years later, I kind of got into everything. Obviously, handled a lot of critical incidents, being the PIO. And I wasn't just the PIO, I was the crime victims investigator. Um, I was a bunch of things. So I was
Oh,
able to kind of hone my skills and just, you know, being an instructor, dealing with all types of crisis, a lot of chemical plant incidents and things of that nature. So then I kind of got tired of Louisiana a little bit, per se, and a job opened up here in the city of Houston, and it was for the Homeland Security Office of Emergency Management. So I became the APIO program manager for that, was there a year, handled a critical incident while I was there. And that's when, everybody kind of started asking more of my background and realized that I had a wealth of experience in crisis communication. And that is how I got to HPD.
oh, okay, great. So you actually had quite a bit of background. I didn't realize that you had done a lot of work in Louisiana.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, that was most of my career in Louisiana.
all right. Well, that explains it. So, how do you feel about being a recovering journalist coming in, and now you're on the other side? You went from what we in law enforcement call the dark side to the
The
light
dark
now.
side. I love it. It wasn't too much of a transition because, like I said, when I was kind of shifting from a college student into the career world, your mainstream mediums were already on the decline. So newspaper was my love, still is my love, but there was no money in it.
No,
Especially for the lifestyle that I want to live, there was no money in it. So I had to just kind of venture into other avenues. I do have to credit the college that I attended, Xavier University of Louisiana, where in our journalism department, we had to get experience in broadcast, print, public relations, radio. We had to do it all. So when we graduated, I could have went into any field that I wanted to because I had that background. And it's not just you go sit in those classes. We actually had to work for a radio station. We had to work for a news station. We had to work for a newspaper. And then, even though Hurricane Katrina was a disaster, it actually was a blessing, especially for journalism students, because Anderson Cooper was there writing his book at
hmm
the time following Katrina, and we got to really be a part of that history and bringing our newspaper back. And so having mentors like him and Soledad O'Brien who were there, who were living there,
right,
sharing their story, we got that real world experience. So it was a blessing and a curse at the same time, obviously, because we lost everything, but we were able to gain that real world experience that really helped us.
right, right. All right. So I'm assuming HPD has a really decent sized public affairs unit. Could you explain staffing and what kind of duties you've got there?
Yeah, so I think you'll be surprised. So we have four PIOs, four full-time PIOs. We have one social media expert, and we have kind of two people that handle the website duties type thing. And then you have myself as a division manager, and I can kind of fill into the roles of to help out the PIOs from time to time. But everybody thinks we have like 15 PIOs on staff. No, it's four geniuses who are literally the turning wheel for our department, and they literally handle everything and they have a really good makeup because they've all been together for over 12 years with each other. So they kind of know how everything works. And they're also different. They come from different backgrounds. Most obviously television, but a few radio, some just kind of marketing backgrounds.
Okay, so
So it's
these are all civilians, Allison?
yes, everybody is a
Okay.
civilian. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
not a bad size unit though in reality to have 4 PIOs. I mean, and you as the head of the division, and then you have a person in charge of social media, and then 2 people on the website. A lot of
Yep.
places have the website person and social media person doing the same thing. And then they have maybe
Yes.
one PIO and a backup for a larger
Right.
department. That's probably your average.
Yeah, and so I always tell them, so where I came from, I was everything. I was the only one that had access to social media accounts. I was the only one writing press releases. I was the only one, responding to scenes. I was on call 24/7, 365. Nobody else posted on our social media page. So if I was sick, everybody knew I was sick because nothing was
Because
getting
nothing happened.
posted. Exactly. Nothing was being posted. So I was the one doing all of the interviews and, everything like that. So coming here, while it's a much bigger city, it's a much robust information that we're getting out. It's not as busy as I was because I was the only one handling what they're doing.
Okay, so let me ask you this: when you made the change from a PI from a person handling journalism and then going into the PIO role, was there something that surprised you about the position being a PIO?
Um, no, there was nothing that surprised me per se. However, I will say I did unfortunately find out how cruel people can be.
Oh yeah,
Um, and so that was kind of not necessarily a surprise, but it was a kind of like, man, I got to stay on my A game at all times because, you know, you want to address it but not address it. You want to address it the correct way by doing better and learning from what you did. And so that was really kind of the only thing. There was really no surprises. I think more so for myself, I always wanted to make sure it was the right information. And sometimes people didn't understand that because they just want something. Why are you waiting so long to say something? No, I need to make sure it's accurate so I don't have to come back and say anything. But people can be generally cruel and rude. But thankfully, I had a good upbringing to not worry about what people say, but really kind of focus on the constructive criticism and knowing who to listen to and what not to listen to.
right, right. So video has really played a big role in public information now. I mean, video is kind of like king right now. How has that affected the way you guys do stuff at HPD?
So I can tell you, and if you look at on our social media channels, videos are our bread and butter, especially the TikTok model videos. Obviously, we don't have a TikTok, obviously for government reasons, but we do a lot of the TikTok style videos because that is what appeals to our audience. We can reach from 3 years old to 103 years old with videos, and we have a chance to customize it, be creative, and humanize the badge of information that we need to get out. And I really do think that we do a very good job of incorporating video into when we want to get the word out about something, and not just externally. We do that internally too. When there is something that needs to be addressed with uh, over 5,000 officers, we can do it through a video, and it's interesting. So video has helped us a great deal. It's something that I encourage if other departments are not doing it, learn how to do it, learn how to do it correctly. Reach out to others, look at other social media accounts to see what works because we're not creating new content. We're
Right,
just telling it in a different way. So a
right,
video is tremendous. It helps us, and sticking to that 30, 60, 90 second rule of videos really helps in paying attention and not being naive to the analytics of it. Right? We know that people listen to a 30-second video or a 60 second, and we get a few people listening to the 90 seconds. So you want to stay within that realm, and so that's really what we try to do.
all right. So that goes to my next question: do you utilize analytics to evaluate and or redirect or change the way you message. So you're obviously doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is how we know that we're reaching our intended audience. You know, it's no different from the 8-step communication will that we're all taught through FEMA courses, right? We have to constantly modify, evaluate, and go back to the drawing board. And so we use our videos to not only tell a story, but to determine what audiences are we reaching. Or maybe we need to kind of scale it back. What are the comments under the videos that we're seeing that can help us do better? Maybe we didn't explain it correctly. Maybe we need to do a follow-up video. So analytics are highly important, and not just to the PIOs, but also to our command staff, the chief. This is stuff that we can bring to other people to say, hey, this didn't work last time. We need to come back and try something else.
Excellent. So let me ask you this. You're not using TikTok, but you're using the TikTok style of video. So you're using that what is it, the 16:9 format, or what? Not the 16:9, the 9:6 format.
9 by 6, yeah.
9:6, yeah. Using that format instead because it fits better on phones. You're really targeting the mobile user, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so I will tell you that it was a big adjustment for me. Our social media expert, he is in his 20s, he gets it. And he had to convince me to not do horizontal videos, but to do vertical. And it still bothers me, I will tell you, because that is how we were always taught, to do a horizontal video or horizontal, photo. And so when he said to trust him, and then we looked at the analytics, I don't have any other question. It works.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, so Houston has had a population explosion, and it changes. Every city's had a population change, good or bad, whether they've gotten bigger or smaller. With the increase that's happened in your jurisdiction, how has your messaging adapted in the areas of notifications and crime prevention?
Yeah, so that changes a lot. And again, using the analytics, using statistics of different crimes that we're seeing, that kind of determines how we need to push out messaging. There's over 17 languages spoken. And one of the things that we really try to focus on is obviously reaching the whole community, right? That's everybody. And also understanding that the whole community is reflected within our department, and utilizing those officers and civilians with different backgrounds to show how are we reaching the demographic, or are we reaching the specific target audience that we need to reach. And so we really do a good job with incorporating that with our officers to help us with that message in the community, because we have our Asian liaisons or our Hispanic liaisons. They're the ones that we're dependent on to tell us, are we doing a good job, or what is the message that we need to get out, or that you're seeing on the streets that we can really help with. So having those liaisons within the department and being embedded in the community, like we are with our community affairs division, we are able to better understand what needs to put out to reach the entire community. So while, over the past 2 years or so, we've had an influx of different races and of different ethnic backgrounds. It helps us because we're already prepared for it. And so we just have to learn a little bit, educate ourselves on how we're getting the message out.
Has You're talking about different ethnicities and races and so on. So are these mostly undocumented immigrants that have come into the city, or is this
No,
just everything?
no, I wouldn't say undocumented at all. I would say that, Houston is the most diverse city in the country. There are so many languages spoken here. And so while we may not reach them all, we'll never stop trying to reach everybody by learning the community, because you have, obviously a large Hispanic population. You have a lot of Ethiopians, you have a lot of Asians, you have a lot of Chinese. It's just so many that we have. And that is reflected also within our officers. that work there. They're a part of these, communities as well. And so we really lean on them to say, hey, the nation of Qatar is moving into Houston. We need to focus on messaging that. What are some issues that we're seeing that may be relative to just that community? So that's what we're doing.
Okay. I did not realize that you guys were well over 2.2 million population. I
Yes.
had no clue that you guys were that. Are you? So that's got to put you, I mean, pretty high up in maybe the top 10.
Yeah, we're the fourth largest city in the country.
Okay. So I did not realize you guys were that big. Okay. So
Yes.
that explains a lot. Um,
Yes.
all right. That explains a lot. All right. I'm going to ask a question that wasn't on the question list here that I sent you. It's relatively simple. Um, how are you handling recruitment and retention, and how are you messaging for it? I know recruitment may not necessarily be your forte, but I'm sure some of it's got to come through your office.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So our recruitment, we've done a really good job in the past 2 years of kind of upping recruitment. If you ask around, nationwide, everybody's having a problem with recruitment and retention, right? It's hard to be a police officer. It's hard to fund what we need, and everywhere you go, officers are short. That's kind of how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where we utilize our PIOs and social media to get creative. How are we reaching that? Through social media. We do recruitment videos, we do social media posts, we do graphics, we do all type of outreach in the community, going out to those different job fairs or whatever it may take, going to schools. So we really are out there. But I will have to say, I think what has helped us in recruiting is the fact that you have all different makeups at the table making decisions on how we're going to get the word out about recruiting. And then, Mayor Turner is behind HPD 100%, and that, obviously helps us as well. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just an overall, good. You have your young, you have your middle age, you have your old, and we all come together with these ideas to just really make it better with recruitment. And retention, we're trying. We've done something. We've added a $10,000 incentive program that's funded through 3 stages during the academy. So we've done a really big push on that with just education, graphics, videos, that type of thing. So just trying to make it appealing. And then who doesn't want to work in the fourth largest city in the country?
Well, yeah. I mean, really, and the weather's got to be
Yeah.
the weather's got to be pretty decent down there. So I mean, you're not getting snow, definitely not.
Well, I mean, we're getting 100-degree weather, but I mean, it's still, I mean, to get the experience that you get here, you won't get anywhere else. So why not join?
Right. Well, it sounds like you had you there's a decent plan, and you're executing it cohesively, which is really important. How many officers would you say you're down, or are you, where would you like to be?
Well, that number I don't really know specifically. I just know that we're down. But what I can tell you is what we're doing to increase the numbers is having more academy cadet classes. So we have 5 for the year, and like I said, it's recruitment. It's those who are the lateral moves from different departments is big, and so just having more classes and, like I said, getting the social media aspect out there to get people involved. And, to kind of put it in comparisons, the city of Chicago, there's about 13,000 officers, and they're always the ones that are compared to us. And, we have 5,600 officers. They have 13,000. So it would be great to have something like that. We don't obviously have the budget for it. And then obviously, when you look at a city like Chicago, where crime is just rampant, right? It makes you think, is 13,000 enough? Um, and
No,
so,
it's not.
you know, right. So we can't ever like really answer that question. But what I can tell
I,
you is the efforts that we're putting in to actually just get more officers.
I don't know if it's a good comparison to compare you guys to Chicago, because and I came from that area. So before I moved out to Colorado, the the Chicago Police Department, they've lost numbers. They might be budgeted for 13,000. They have probably close to 11,500 that are
Hmm.
actually officers. But then you take out maybe about 4,000 of those that are out on injury or light duty, that have not been to work in 4 to 6 months. Now you're right down to, where they're roughly 7,000 officers on
Right.
3 shifts that have to cover the crime that they have in the city of Chicago. And I'll tell you, it's a nightmare. I have a nephew, or not a nephew, my niece whose future husband is a sheriff in an area outside of Chicago, and they had 22 people shot and 2 or 3 killed at a Juneteenth event. And it really wasn't the group in the Juneteenth event; it was a car driving by that unloaded on them, and it just the amount of sheer violence that comes out of Chicago is just unprecedented compared to other parts of the country. Really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you this: going back to May of 2020, the George Floyd stuff. How did that impact you guys after it unfolded?
So I was not at HPD in 2020 when George Floyd happened. However, I was at a sheriff's office, and what I can tell you is the way HPD handled the riots, the incidents, the calls, just everything became a model for police departments and sheriff's office worldwide of how they would respond because they really did a stand-up job. They really did a great job on standing where they needed to stand and being transparent, um, and being one voice. I mean, I can tell you that when it happened in Louisiana was a reason that we redid our mobile field force of how we responded to riots and things because that is not something that Louisiana is necessarily known for. And so it became like a trickle down effect. Um, but speaking to the PIOs that were there, um, it was a trying time, for them. They were overworked at that point, but they got through it with networking with other PIOs, helping them get through that, and really just kind of standing together. So I don't have like the inside part of that, but what I can tell you is from where I came from, we reached out to HPD for assistance on how we would respond in Louisiana for events like such.
Oh, okay, excellent. All right, so my next question is about critical incidents and officer-involved shootings. A lot of departments now are going to a critical incident debrief video, something along those lines, where there's the body worn camera video and so on like that. Do you guys have something like that? Do you do something like that?
Yes, so our body worn camera videos are released within 30 days of the incident. That is our policy, and so that is pushed out through our social media channels. We do meet or attempt to meet with the families before posting that, just to give them that knowledge, like, hey, this will be posted out, and we just push those out on our social media, and they can all be found on our YouTube page as well.
Okay. Well, and how long has it been going on since before you got there, or was that something that you put in place?
No, that was something that was before my time.
Okay, so HPD's been doing this for quite a while.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, joint information centers. Let's talk about that. A real big piece of the puzzle for crisis management. You
Yes.
were part of the JIC for the NCAA basketball tournament that was down in Houston. What did you do, and why are JIC so important for an event like that?
I cannot stress enough how important a joint information center is, and a joint information system as well, right? So during the Final Four, we started a year, obviously prior to the events that happened this past March and April. So myself and a team of HPD officers, commanders, assistant chiefs, as well as the Houston Fire Department commanders and chiefs, we all went to New Orleans. So I was back home for a week, and we got to kind of just experience what they what they had to plan for, those type of things. And then the past year, we spent in our perspective divisions or our expertise of preparing what that would look like for the city of Houston. We had monthly meetings. So I did a lot of training because one thing is to tell people what they need to do and they're not prepared for it. So I had a lot of trainings on what a JIC is, the roles of JICs, those type of things. We put a JIC plan in place for the city of Houston that had never been done. So I was very proud to do that and have the mayor's kind of stamp of approval to say, you know what, not just PIOs, but I want all city department leaders to have this training as well. And at first it was, I don't want to go to this training. And then all of them were like, this was amazing. Like they get to understand when we say, I need your PIO to respond to the JIC, why and what goes on. So that was very helpful. So not only that, I created a communication plan. I walked through, the different roles of what we would need. And not just that, we did full scale exercises with the JIC, with the EOC, with fire, with police, with the FBI, with all of our, local, state, and federal partners for them to understand what the JIC is supposed to do. Because a lot of times we can have a JIC, but our leaders come in and sometimes don't understand that and they change everything, and then we begin working harder and not smarter. So I'm thankful for the past, year or so that I was able to kind of gather that. Now, inadvertently, I changed from Homeland Security and Emergency Management over to HPD during that time. So they were trying to find my replacement at OEM, and I said, "Don't worry, I'll still take care of it, make everything, make sure
Huh.
everything's right." So even down to testing the computers and the JIC and just getting the schedules and everything, it was very challenging, but it was something that was needed. And so we had a tabletop exercise for the Final Four, and the NCAA would come down monthly, and we would just kind of meet and talk. And the marketing director told me, she says, I've never been a part of like our planning meetings where the PIO or the person over the PIOs speaks about the entire plan. And they were actually on the agenda. I said, I know, right? Like we're coming up in the world, like we're doing things. And not only that, it was, this is what we're going to be doing. And I need you guys to see when an event turns into an incident, what we do and how we get it out and how we accurately and efficiently get something out, right? So we had a tabletop exercise with the FBI, and the guy that facilitated the tabletop, he came up to me afterwards and he was like, I don't know whether to say that I want to work for you or if I'm scared to work for you, because you were just like, you didn't blink, you had it all together, you knew what you needed to do. And I said, listen, crisis is what I do. It's no different from when police officers are running to the threat when everybody else is running. I'm running to it too to help get the messaging out. And that is just kind of what we love to do, right? And so being able to share the knowledge and the expertise and the experience that I've had, over my 20-year career of crisis, and people actually listen. And it was very, a rewarding feeling. And I think in the city of Houston, we understand that JICs are important, and a JIC is a part of something that we always have. I just got off of a phone call. We're having the Pride Parade in the city of Houston, and that was one of the questions. So is the JIC going to be operated? What are y'all doing? And that's just a good feeling to be included, because as you know, PIOs are not always included, and we're always the
No.
last to know things. And so it's just a good feeling, and I'm very proud to have brought that to the city of Houston, and just really understanding. And I've been deployed to a lot of JICs for hurricanes, especially the state of Florida. I think I get activated to Florida every year. I went to Kentucky during their flooding event. So I've been kind of, Puerto Rico was one. So I've kind of had the experience of dealing with a bunch of them. So it's just been really fun to kind of help put that together for the city of Houston, and also not just PIOs understanding, but leaders and everybody else understanding how vitally important a joint information center is.
Well, congratulations to you for doing that and getting those politicians and those leaders to see the value of their PIO and to elevate them, because you know it, and probably everybody listening here knows how difficult it is sometimes to get the PIO into the room to make sure
Yes,
that they're getting that
absolutely.
information, to get the right information out to the public.
Yes.
So kudos to you. All right, so since you became the PIO division manager, what changes did you implement to the unit?
So right off the bat, more specific PIO training. So when I started, they, like I said, they're all seasoned vets. They've been in the business 15 plus years, and specifically as PIOs there, which is, hard to find these days, right? And I said, we need to get more up to date training, kind of get you guys into it. I'm a FEMA instructor for the PIO classes, and some of the NIMS training. So I said, this would be great. I can just teach the classes and you guys can come. I am pleased to say, so I've been with HPD now 7 months, and I have two APIOs on staff now, three including myself. Within the city of Houston, we are four. There are four, and I have trained all of them. And so that was something I was very proud of. I have one who is applying to the master PIO position now because now she's hooked. And I have the others are like, I'm waiting, I'm ready to go too, and all that. So training was something specifically the PIOs that I was like, we have to do. But not only that, I think it's important for them to understand the emergency management training. So understanding that NIM structure, unified command, sports, public information, that type of thing. So they've all had training, and that's something that I'm proud of. The other thing that I incorporated is that they all became members of National Information Officers Association. I've been a member for well over, I don't know, 6, 7 years now. And I thought that that was very important for them to have an outlet and a network of people that they can call on, you know, throughout the country, to help them get through things or to just feed off of ideas or to just really build friendships with. And so that is something that they are. We're going to be going to NRA conference this year. I go every year, so it'll be fun to have some of my staff with me. So just kind of enjoy that experience. So that is something. And then another thing is the mental health piece. I don't think that we check on each other enough. So one of the things that our guys do is they take walks on the floor like every hour or so. So they kind of just get up from their desk and kind of depress. Some of them go for walks during lunch breaks and, just kind of, we have a fun working environment. We like to have fun together. So we kind of all, meet, some of us hang out, after work and stuff. And so that is just kind of that to make it feel like a family because we're going to be together a lot. And so
Yeah.
that's just something that we have to figure out what that balance is. But mental health is something that is at the top of my priority list, and that's something that I want them to incorporate as well. But the training I think is the most that I'm proud of is having them buy into it and now saying like I'm not the only APIO in the city of Houston.
Right.
There's others,
Tr-
and I'm happy about
Training
that.
is one of those things where PIOs, a lot of times when they've been in it a long time, they always say, I've got enough. And
Yes,
there's always some training you could take, some refinements that you can make, some new lessons you might learn from somebody else that does training in other parts of the country that maybe you just never thought of it that way. And I think that is really
right.
important.
Yes,
So kudos to you.
absolutely.
Excellent job. All right.
Thank
Is there a
you.
question I should have asked? And how, if so, how would you have answered it?
No, I can't really think of a question. No, I really can't think of another question.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go into some rapid fire stuff. All right.
Okay.
All right. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Coffee or tea?
Water.
Adult drink of choice?
Tequila.
Straight up or margaritas
I like,
tequila?
no, I like tequila reposado straight up.
Oh, okay. Name one thing that people say surprised them about you.
People are always surprised about how young I am and the vast experience that I have.
Okay. Do you have a pet?
No.
Is there a book or author that had an influence on you?
You know, I can't really name one. It's been a bunch. But if I had to narrow it down, and I know this is going to sound really cliche, but it really has helped, and it has been like the life book, which is obviously the Bible. The Bible has helped me get through everything. If there's something going on, you can open the Bible and say, "Okay, I got it. This is what we're gonna do." Like, it's just that encyclopedia for everything.
Yeah, the
But there's
original
been so
crisis manual.
many. Yes, exactly. And we have our crisis manuals, right? And I have my Bible with me everywhere I go. And you can turn to it for everything because it really is something that, has an answer for everything. Really,
Right, I
literally.
agree.
So yeah.
Ask permission or beg for forgiveness.
I think it depends on the situation, but if we're dealing with a crisis, I'm gonna just have to beg for forgiveness.
PIO way. If you
PIO
could have
way, you
coffee,
trusted me to do
yep,
it.
yeah, exactly. If you could have coffee or tea with any historical figure, who would you choose?
Definitely Walter Cronkite. That man was a genius. And I just feel like for someone, we think about our World War II veterans, and most of them are, deceased now, but there's still a few that are around. Having sat with some of them and just listening to those stories are amazing. But to hear from a man who has heard all of the stories, who got to actually cover it, I mean, that's amazing. And the things that he did, and to be known as like the most trusted man in America, right? Like, just I don't know. I would love to have sat down with him,
You know,
to just
not not many journalists could say that today that they would be considered the most trusted man in
I
America. I mean,
know.
you think about the talking heads that are out there right now, and I can't say it, one of them I would trust like you could Walter Cronkite on TV.
Yes, yes, that man was brilliant, and he really paved the way for a lot of people. Following him, Dan Rather. So there's a video. I think I was 9, and my dad filmed us, and he's like, "Where are we about to go?" And I acted as if I was Connie Chung. And I said this was Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock. The video exists. And I've been hooked ever since, like literally ever since.
That's awesome. What key points would you like our listeners to take away from our interview today?
I think that training is vital, not just textbook training, but you have to get the real world experience. You have to network and learn from others. Leave your ego at home. Leave it at home. There's no place for it in this world because, our job as PIOs and in the journalism profession is to get the right information to the right people at the right time. They don't need an ego when we're going through things. People deal with enough. And so I think, being open to learning, volunteering, and getting involved, kind of going back to what I said when people are like, dang, you're young to have accomplished so much. I was always the first black, the first youngest, and the first woman, pretty much in everything. So I held Rotary Club president. I was the first woman, first black, and the youngest. And then I was also Chamber of Commerce president 3 times, and I was the first woman. I was editor in chief of a newspaper, again, first black. So I did all of that, but I also volunteered a lot. I was a volunteer cheerleading coach at a high school. I volunteered with Teach for America. I volunteered for Downtown Development District, a whole bunch of things because I think that's so important. Growing up, my parents instilled to me that you have to give back, and you
Hmm.
have to put out in the community what you want to get back. And so that kind of instills. So it was really no surprise that I got into a profession that was kind of service above self. That's what Rotarians do, is service above self. And that's just something that I just kind of fell into. And I think it makes you a well-rounded journalist, a well-rounded PIO, and just a well-rounded person, when you give your time and you give back to the community
Right.
that you serve, and really knowing that we never stop learning until we die. But training, I think, is the number one. Everybody that knows me knows that I'm all about training. So that's just the most
Training.
important thing.
It's the first thing that gets cut, and PIOs are always the last to get anything. So that's
Yes.
outstanding. What's the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to connect or discuss anything they heard today?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. My email address is allison.hudson at houstonpolice.org. That's ALLISON.HUDSON at houstonpolice.org. So I'm always available. A lot of people reach out to me already. So, yeah, and if they want to email you and they can't, you can call me and I will get them information. People call me all times of the night, hey, what do I do in this situation? And I don't mind it. I tell people all the time, I'm always available 24/7, 365. And I taught for a class and I told him that same thing. And he is a sergeant for a sheriff's office here. And he called me and he says, hey, I said, hey, what's going on? I just called to see if you're going to answer the phone. I said, yeah. And he does it all the time. He did it today. It's like, I was just calling to see if you were going to answer the phone. I said, yeah, I told you I was going to always answer the phone. Like, I'm going to always answer. So, please feel free to reach out. Never think that you're bothering me because I truly feel that God gave me this talent and this information in my brain to share it and not hold it in. So I'm willing to share knowledge and give expertise or give advice wherever I can at any time.
Outstanding. I will add all of your contact information into the show notes so it'll make it easier for people to find it when they have an opportunity. Allison, thank you
Perfect.
very much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
And that was Allison Hudson from Houston Police Department.